Why is everyone addicted to drugs? What's up, everybody?
Hi, I'm Scarlett.
I'm Christina, and today we're going to be giving you the rundown of the most interesting fan theories that we found.
To start off, we have the Rugrats theory. I think this is maybe one of the most popular theories. So Rugrats is about this group of babies and all of the adventures they have and the trouble they run into. So you guys remember Angelica? She was manipulative, she was mean, she was rude. But a lot of people think that her rudeness and her attitude might be a lot more than it just seems. As a lot of these theories go, basically what people think is that Rugrats, the TV show, and all of the adventures they went through and all of the things they went through are a figment of Angelica's imagination. And there are like these very tragic, creepy backstories to each of the children. Apparently, Tommy was a stillborn baby. So that's why his dad, Stu Pickles, is always in the basement working on inventions and toys for the child he unfortunately never got to meet.
That's dark.
Chucky, my favorite, actually died along with his mother, and that's why his dad, Chaz, is a little anxious all the time and a little nervous. Angelica created Phil and Lil when their parents had an abortion, and she wasn't sure if the baby was going to be a boy or a girl, so she just made them twins. The only real Rugrat was Dill, and Angelica got really mad at him one day because she's able to call all of the others away at will, but since Dill is a real person, he's not just able to go away. So she got really mad at him for not going away and started hitting him repeatedly until he unfortunately got brain damage, and that ended up making him an outcast for the rest of his life, as you guys can see in All Grown Up. What she did to Dill actually traumatized Angelica so much that she turned to drugs as a teenager. And the explanation for her both having a propensity to addiction and being bipolar schizophrenic is that apparently her mom had a really bad drug addiction. She was a heroin addict. And so Angelica's a product of that.
This is too much.
It's a lot. And there's literally more to go. So since her mom was a drug addict, she actually modeled her doll Cynthia after what she remembers her mom looks like.
I mean, it makes sense because Cynthia looked a hot mess. Wasn't her mom in the show?
Yes. The woman we see as her mom in the show is actually her stepmom, who's a gold digger. Angelica's so traumatized that she just, in her head, this woman is her actual mom. There's this whole thing about how Kira, Chaz's wife, eventually is actually a hooker he meets in Paris, and she's marrying him to get a green card. And apparently Kimmy was taken away from her when she was a baby because she was a cocaine addict. And so Angelica imagined Kimmy from the stories that Kira told her.
Why is everyone addicted to drugs?
There's still more. The theory says at age 13, when All Grown Up was canceled, it was actually because Angelica died of a drug overdose. Her friend Susie that you guys see in the show is the only other real person aside from her and Dill. She grows up and ends up becoming a psychologist and teaming up with Nickelodeon to make Rugrats.
No!
Based on Angelica's life.
Absolutely not.
It's just so much. And the wording of the theory is problematic in itself because they're using bipolar schizophrenia as something to elevate the theory and make it more scary.
Yeah.
Also, in my memory of the show, the Rugrats interact with their parents all of the time.
I just feel like they were babies and she was mean. That's it.
I don't know.
We don't believe it.
This one's a little...
Let's see how the rest of them play out. And the next show we're going to talk about is one of my favorites, Ed, and Eddy. And basically, if you don't remember what the show is about, it's about a bunch of kids that live in this cul-de-sac. And the show kind of takes place in the same area. And Ed, and Eddy are kind of outcasted from the rest of the kids, so they spend their summer days trying to scam the others out of their money to buy Jawbreakers. So the theory that I found kind of creeped me out a little bit. They're basically saying that the kids are all dead and that the show takes place in a purgatory. So like the cul-de-sac is purgatory. And they got this idea from the fact that all the kids kind of have pale-ish skin. They all have different colored tongues, but it's like bluish, and like your tongue does turn blue when you die. There's never any adults around, and so the theory is that all these kids died at a different point in time and for different reasons, and now they're all in this just space, kind of just there. Eddy was born in the Great Depression era, and that's why he's always trying to scam people out of money, trying to find money. And the idea is that one day he scams a group of kids, they chased him, he jumped into a lake and then ended up drowning in that lake. So Ed and Sarah were born after World War II. And they died in a freak car accident. And Double D was super smart. And the way he died was that he was using his chemistry lab kit in his room and it caught fire. And the rest of the group of friends died in many different ways in different time periods. The only ones that are not dead are the Canker sisters. And it's said that they are demons that were sent to purgatory to bother these kids. So reading all of this, I'm like, wait, what is going on? Some inconsistencies begin in season 5 where you start seeing like body parts of adults as well as shadows of adults. Okay. And then you see Ed's big brother in the show and he's an adult. So, you know, but we're saying that what happened is that the kids left purgatory and went to visit Ed's brother in hell.
What? Isn't the point of purgatory that you can't leave?
And another thing is that one of the creators actually said that when he was drawing the cartoons, okay, his kids and his kids' friends came in, he gave them some candy, and then their tongues started turning different colors from the candy. Okay. And that's how he got the idea to make the characters' tongues different colors. Also, I wanted to point out that Cartoon Network has kind of this pattern of not showing complete adult faces. Like in the Powerpuff Girls, the mayor's secretary, you never see her face. And also, Cow and Chicken, you never saw the adults. All you saw was their legs. So could this just be a Cartoon Network pattern?
I just think that, like, if the whole theory relies on the fact that they're in purgatory, the brother thing kind of really, like, put me off on it.
Yeah.
So, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends takes place in a universe where the imaginary friends of children take on a physical form. So basically humans and their imaginary friends are coexisting in the same universe. However, once kids outgrew their imaginary friends, they didn't really have anywhere to go. So that's why Madame Foster created Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. So basically, Madame Foster runs this huge home for imaginary friends with the help of her imaginary friend, Mr. Harriman, and her granddaughter, Frankie. But where the theory comes in is that people don't believe Frankie's real. Madame Foster's kind of old. What if she created Frankie because she realized how old she's getting and she needs someone to help her with errands around the house and also take care of the other imaginary friends? What tipped people off to this theory is the fact that Madame Foster and Frankie are literally wearing the same outfit. Another major point that people use as evidence for this theory is that Frankie's never showed to have an imaginary friend of her own. People think it's weird that a 22-year-old is like willingly hanging around her grandma all the time and helping her with this home for imaginary friends. She never seemed to have a life until the episode where she goes on a date, and that's actually brought up by a couple of people as a counterpoint. So what people are saying is that if she's an imaginary friend, why would she go out on a date with a human? But she could simply just be unaware that she's an imaginary friend. She could literally just think she's a real human because that's how Madame Foster imagined her. She's also shown to have a driver's license. The counterpoint to that is also like, why would a imaginary friend need a driver's license?
The theory is that Madame Foster created her to help her run errands. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, she needs a driver's license to help her run errands. And Madame Foster could have imagined her with all those abilities. So it's like they're not really disproving the theory.
In the episode The Trouble with Scribbles, Frankie is actually seen to have an imaginary friend in the form of, like, scribbles, which aren't fully formed imaginary friends, but they're, like, the seedling of an imaginary friend, basically. And people say, like, well, if she's an imaginary friend, why would she have the ability to create more imaginary friends? And I think that's the only one that really holds up a little bit.
Yes, but if they're not even full imaginary friends, I feel like maybe, okay, imaginary friends don't have the ability to create another imaginary friend. So if she was trying to create something, it didn't work, and she made scribbles instead.
I feel like this is one of the most believable conspiracy theories because Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends in general is just a really bizarre show.
I wouldn't put it past them.
I wouldn't put it past them.
So, for those of you who don't know, Timmy Turner is the main character of the Fairly Odd Parents. He has 2 fairy godparents who grant him his every wish as long as the wish goes by the rules. Danny Phantom is a show about Danny Fenton, a normal 14-year-old kid whose parents are ghost hunters, and they built this machine. He goes in the machine, he presses a button, molecules get all rearranged, and all of a sudden he can turn into a ghost and go into this ghost world and fight evil ghosts. So the theory is that Timmy Turner, as he was turning 13, wished that he would never lose his fairy godparents and that they'd be with him forever. Because the rules say that this cannot happen, he had to become a completely different person. So everyone around him had to become completely different people. And Cosmo and Wanda had to become different as well so that the Fairy Council wouldn't find them. The Fairy Council found this out and erased all of their memories. Theory is that Cosmo and Wanda are the ghosts that Danny Phantom fights. And, you know, they keep coming back to him. Now, this would be a crazy theory, except for the fact that every character that was in the Fairly Odd Parents looks like every character in Danny Phantom. Now, there is a huge possibility that all these characters look alike because the Fairly Odd Parents and Danny Phantom were created by the same person.
Butch Hartman.
Yes. While that may be a possibility, that's boring. So, we're going to keep discussing this theory. In a YouTube video, Butch Hartman actually addressed this theory, but he didn't actually confirm or deny it.
Ooh.
He left it to our imagination.
See, that's great, because creators are always ruining everyone's fun.
He mentions, just like everyone else mentions, some inconsistencies in the theory, though. One big one is the Fairly Odd Phantom episode, where Timmy and Cosmo and Wanda come into Danny Phantom's world. That, you know, might be a problem if they are all the same people.
But they could just have gone into, like, a different dimension of their own reality.
Yes. I'm not saying that disproves it, because that 100% does not disprove the theory. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, you know, some haters out there might say... Some haters out there might say, oh, but what about the episode? There is also an episode of The Fairly Odd Parents where Timmy's parents decide that they're going to be Ghostbusters. And they have a whole lab and everything, and it kind of resembles Danny Phantom's parents'
You know
lab.
whose parents are also ghost hunters?
But anyway, so in that episode where Timmy's parents decide that they're going to be Ghostbusters, you can see in the screen on the background Danny Phantom flying and it says wanted.
Yeah.
But again, it doesn't necessarily disprove the theory that they aren't the same, that they're the same person. It could just be, I don't know.
I feel like maybe it was just a little Easter egg Butch put in there.
Yeah.
In case people would notice.
Or foreshadowing. I don't know. All I'm saying is I don't disagree with the theory. And it's cool.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty strong. Alright, so those are the conspiracy theories we thought were the most interesting.
Let us know in the comments which one of these theories you actually believed, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. It's always right down here, and we link it down below as well.
Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next week.
Bye, everyone.